The 11-hour mark. The floodwaters, now at a lesser height, reach the far north of the continent, entering a supermassive glacial lake known as the West Siberian Glacial Lake. This lake encompassed more a massive lake than 1,000,000 square km at its peak, covering 4.8 times the area of the combined Great Lakes, or for a more local comparison, covering 31% more area than the combined Black Sea, Caspian Sea and Aral Sea. As the flood waters enter this vast body of water, they raise section of its edge temporarily by a dozen meters. This caused the floodwaters, albeit now only a minimal height of a few meters, to surge to the south, reaching the Aral Sea at hour 27 and the Caspian Sea at hour 35. Reaches the Caspian Sea. By the time these waters reached the Black Sea 48 hours later, they had traveled a total of 6,900 kilometers or 4,287 miles. Large sections of the lakes and seas the mega flood touch temporarily turned a cloudy brown due to the extensive sediment it placed. What had just occurred was one of the Altai floods, which had a dramatic impact in the landscapes of LSW of Russia, along with lesser effects to those in 4 other countries. And yet what I just described was not merely a one-off event, although estimates do vary. What I just described occurred at least 5 times between 28,000 and 15,000 years ago. So how did these floods occur? Where did all this water originate from? This video will answer these questions and discuss this repeating ice age era natural disaster. Approximately 28,000 years ago, Earth was in the midst of an ice age, as average world temperatures were 5 C or 41 degrees Fahrenheit instead of the 15 C or 59 F it averages today. As a result, large ice triggering the flood sheets and glaciers developed across far northern and southern latitudes, reaching multiple kilometers thick in both northern Siberia and a region known today as the Altai Republic on the border with Mongolia, China and Kazakhstan. Since 2 closely spaced mountain ranges were present when portions of the adjacent ice sheets on them melted, they filled up 2 valleys with substantial water reaching 600 cubic km in volume. At one point these glacial lakes were held up by a kilometer-thick lobe of glacial ice at a spot 18 kilometers west of the town of Kurai. Over 2,600 years, this lake became increasingly deep, eventually reaching up to 750 meters depth. In some sections, small amounts of this lake water eventually began to escape through cracks in the ice dam. Over time, friction from water flowing through these cracks created heat, which further expanded these to become fissures, thus allowing even more heat to be generated as additional water flowed through. This feedback loop continued until the ice could no longer support the pressure behind it, causing a catastrophic collapse to occur. This process repeated multiple times, somewhat like Washington State's Missoula floods, forever changing the landscape for hundreds of kilometers.